I grew up as an immigrant kid from Romania. People know this story. I was a refugee, the oldest of 9 kids. Mom and dad worked for every single thing they had. They worked 2 or 3 jobs, which meant that each of us also worked 2 and 3 jobs. And, as a younger kid, I struggle with anger. I could go from 0 to 100 like that. And it was just something I had. It was like I'd be cool, and then a minute later I'd be just seeing red everywhere. And I'm like, okay, this thing is a problem for me. And I remember just like having these thoughts and just having this anger and stuff. And eventually I kind of turned this into a secret weapon. I was in university and I was there for music, and my teacher says, hey, you're like the most talented but laziest kid we got. The laziest kid, not even second, but the laziest. And I'm like, okay, cool. Laziest kid. She's like, you'll never be a high school music teacher if you keep this up. I was like, hold on. That's not what I signed up for. She's like, well, that's the program you're in. I got so pissed, man. I got so angry because I made a mistake. I was in the wrong program for like 2 years. 2 years. I got upset. I dropped out. I got into business. I said, okay. I said, I never want money to be a thing for me ever again. I never want somebody to tell me what I can and cannot do. I don't want, I've got a rebellious spirit. I don't want somebody to show up one day and tell me I have to teach high school music, or I have to do this, or I can't do that. That's how my parents escaped communism. Are you kidding me? You can tell me what I can do with my life? So I learned this. I learned about myself in that season that man, I can get angry pretty quick, but I can also get really productive very quickly. I turned my anger into productivity. And I went from being super talented and super lazy to being super talented and freaking a stud. I'm going to work my face off so that one day I never have to work again. It's like that Dave Ramsey thing. I wasn't doing it in some polite context, work like nobody else, and one day you can live like nobody else, right? For me, it was like, no, man, I'm pissed. I want to play music all day. I want to have fun. I want to travel. I want to do the stuff that I care about in life. I want to take care of my family. And I realized that nobody's going to come between me and that. So I turned that anger into focus. And what that helped me do over the next 15 years is develop this really keen sense of focus and execution. I developed core values around this. I turned my anger into focus, execution, speed, get things done, get out of my way. And I've been able to turn into this very positive, happy, very inspirational dude 80% of the time. And then when I got to get things done, I go back into that super focus, get the hell out of my way. I got shit to do. And that helps me. And I think there's a lot of people out there who struggle with ADD, ADHD, focus, and all this stuff. And they're on medication and they're on all these different things. And sometimes I think you got to take a negative like anger and you just got to turn it into a positive like focus. It takes a lot of work. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to undergo some change. You're going to have to encounter some of your limiting beliefs and problems and things. But you know what? You could take that negative and turn it into a positive. Today, I believe I'm special. I got a superpower, man. When I put my mind to something, I just keep going. That's why at 37, I've got financial independence, time independence. I get to live in my purpose. And I don't have to live in and. I can live in and. I don't have to be this or this. I can be both humble and freaking hungry at the same time. Yeah, see, humility is a superpower. It basically means this. I start with giving, I then go to gratitude, and then I get growth. So I just think you got to create your own rules in life. Take your predispositions that you have and start to evaluate those predispositions and go, how can I turn this into a weapon?
You know, there's one, I mean, you said lots of things I want to touch on, but there's one thing that's really powerful that we share this idea of energy, right? So you have this feeling of energy, you take it, and most people think of it as anger, and then they do something negative. They choose a negative action to go with it, but that energy is just a feeling. You can take that energy and you can turn it into what you said, focus. And I think there's, like, you said it subtly, but I think it's important to differentiate that is that the feeling's the same. The action that goes behind it is whether it moves you towards growth or whether it moves you towards the bottle or towards something negative. And so that was really, really powerful. But I want to go back a little bit because it's clear that you have this focus and you have this drive and like just your energy, like we can sense it. So talk about you growing up as a refugee, and a little more in detail about your journey from Romania to how you made it to Canada, and then how that played a role in this energy that you at first use as anger, then you turned it into focus.
Yeah, life is a series of defining moments, I believe. I was born in 1985 in a communist country. My dad had 5 little kids, and he realized that there was no freedom of speech. There was no freedom, period. They had to make a tough decision, which was to leave everything they knew and everyone they knew behind and go and pursue the one thing that I value the most in this world, freedom. Freedom to choose your faith, freedom to choose your vocabulary, freedom to not be censored, freedoms. And they did that, and they risked their life, and we ran across that border, and we were blessed and lucky to find a refugee camp where we spent, months. My sister was born in a refugee camp. That upbringing.
What country was that in?
That was in Austria. So we had to go across 2 different borders, and it was very difficult for a 27-year-old man with 5 kids. He had to leave 2 kids behind just to make the journey. So you imagine that at 27, having to pick which kids to leave and run. We got to this refugee camp, and a couple months later, they executed the president of Romania on live television, Christmas Day, 1989. Wow. And all of a sudden, Romania goes into this free-for-all. They open up the borders. My brother and sister, we were reunited. And on the day that my mother came home from the hospital with her 6th child, my brother and sister walked in the door. So there were 3 kids in the morning and 6 in the evening. When you live that life, dude,
wow.
We eventually came to Canada, had 3 more kids. Mom and dad had 3 more kids.
Yeah.
And when you live that life, what it solidifies in you is like everything is possible if you just push. For me, faith is a verb, not a noun. You act by faith. You move by faith.
Yeah.
That's how I live my life. So it's like people go, how are you so certain things will work out? And I'm like, I don't need certainty. I need faith. I need to operate at a 70% probability, move forward, correct, move forward, correct, move forward, and find an outcome. And that shaped my character as a kid, as an adult. Like when I dropped out of school, dude, I didn't know what I was going to do. I started a carpet cleaning company because the only thing I knew how to do was clean. I mean, every immigrant kid knows how to clean. We're pros at it. Am I right? And that just led one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. So I would say this, man, it's who you become in the face of your adversity. I think that like adversity is a superpower, but you got to make it one. It's as simple as that. So that's my life growing up is I saw mom and dad do things that were impossible, like escape communism. I saw mom and dad do things that were impossible. My dad got a doctorate in theology, and he was born in a village of like 12 people.
I don't want to overshadow the fact that you were also in a family of 9 kids, right? And you were the oldest. So like being, obviously that's a like that story of being a refugee obviously trumps probably almost every other story, but you also grew up in a household of 9 kids with you being the oldest. So describe a little bit how that had an impact on who you are today as well.
Responsibility, man. When you're the oldest of 9 kids in my generation I grew up in, it's like you're 9 years old. Oh yeah, you get to take care of the 2-year-old. Yeah. It's easy, right? We had one every year for 9 years. So what it meant was that, we're incredibly blessed to have a big family. It was also hard and stressful to have a big family, hard to feed 9 kids. We had to number them when we got in the minivan because we couldn't call them out by name, stuff like that. You develop a protocol with 9 kids. So people are like, I have 1. My mom was like, after 4, it's the same. It could be 9 or 19. It doesn't matter. I'm serious. It's a protocol. So, but what I learned was an early sense of responsibility. Like, hey, I got little siblings I got to take care of. Like in high school, bro, there's a grade 12, a grade 11, a grade 9, a grade 10, a grade 8, a grade 7, a grade 6, all the way down the food chain. There's one of us in every grade. So what it did was just instill this thing like, dude, like somebody has to be the responsible one. Somebody has to take charge. I didn't play sports in high school. I played 1 year of soccer because I got my license at 16, which meant that I had to drive my siblings home from high school and then go drive my siblings home from grade school. So I'll be in the car on the road for, 2 hours a day driving and picking up kids. Like I used to be annoyed as a kid. Like I want to play sports. I want to do stuff. But the responsibility overrides the things that we want to do sometimes. And I think what we don't have is I don't have control over my emotions, but I have control over my behavior. Yeah. I can make a choice how to behave regardless of the emotion. And I think that's what you develop when you have that responsibility as a core thing.
Yeah. So there's something I want to hit on, right? And I can relate to this because, child of an immigrant who made tremendous sacrifices to be here. And I'm a firm believer that we are in a country that has as far as the United States is concerned, some of the greatest opportunity in the world, period. There's very few countries that can even come close to comparing to the freedom of opportunities, the abundance of opportunities that I have and that I get to reap the benefits for. I want you to, because it hits me, and I know there's also a large demographic of our audience that this will hit as well. There's a ton of us who are the children of parents who made very difficult, scary, life-altering decisions to leave where they were at to come here. And a lot of times we've had a guest come on before who talked about basically them having to wade through the Mekong River to escape a communist regime, to escape death, essentially. So being the child, especially with you, the firstborn son of parents who made that sacrifice, can you speak to all the other ones like you, like me, about the weight of responsibility? Because this is what I'm kind of just noticing, and I meet a lot of these people. Is like, yeah, my mom, she made all the sacrifices. She came here from Mexico or, somewhere in South America or whatever. And I'm a firm believer that you honor that sacrifice by working harder than anyone in the history of your family tree. That is your obligation. Can you speak to, do you believe in that? Is that, I already know the answer. I'd love for you to speak to it.
That is a statement, and that is a weight that we carry. I remember my dad said one time to me, like, he came here, he got a doctorate, he's got 9 kids and all this stuff. He's like, I wish I would have made more money. And I looked at Dad for like 30 seconds, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, you don't have to, because you made me.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing that I can do. Yeah. You've already done so much. You don't have to do this too. And I think that when you're a first generation and you're the son or the daughter of a person like this, you feel this massive pressure to perform, this massive pressure to take care of the family. And, in many ways, I have no problem with pressure. Pressure can, pressure can create the most amazing conviction you could possibly have, right? It kills laziness. It kills a lot of bad habits. It kills a lot of negative things. It can also create a lot of stress and tension and pressure. That doesn't help you either. But for me, dude, I treat it differently. Like, for me, it's not a stress, it's an honor. I get the honor of being able to be the one, and I got 8 other siblings. I'm not discounting them. They get to do, and they get to push, and they get to create. But you feel the honor of the legacy. It's like, hey, if my dad made this sacrifice, I'm going to honor his legacy by taking it to the next level so that his voice can be heard. He came here for freedoms that maybe he may never fully utilize. But me being here my whole life, having the language, having the culture, and having access, dude, I'm going to be that voice for my generation, for my family, for the legacy. I'm going to do the things that my cousins and brothers and sisters and people back home who maybe never made it over would have loved to do. So you're right. You represent a whole generation. For me, I represent a whole generation of lost kids, because when the communism fell in Romania, a lot of those children, the parents couldn't afford to feed them, because during communism, everybody had food, a little bit, but they had food. After communism fell, people literally starved. Kids went on the street, kids went to orphanages. So I have a very soft spot for kids who grew up on the streets, because that's literally a whole generation of people my age. So that's tough. That's a tough weight, but I think you take that negative, dude, and you turn it into a positive. And you do the things that people won't do because they don't have that deep intrinsic desire to push for legacy growth. That word means more to me and more to you than it probably does to most people. To most people, it's money. To you and me, it's everything.